Hey everybody, this is On, and I wanted to get out this month's insights for world events that are going on for April 2023, and just touch base and hopefully, we can get through this and it won't take too long today. I've been a little under the weather, so if I'm not 100%, just be a little patient with me today because I've been laid up with some physical challenges, nothing that's going around in the world. Everybody wants to know, did you get COVID? And I'm like, no, it's not COVID. I don't have any symptoms along those lines. It's just stuff that I deal with every year. Just happened to hit me harder this year than other times. So anyways, just hang in there with me, but I wanted to get this out so that you guys would have the information there as far as what's coming in for April. And we have in our code energy, and for those that aren't familiar, let me just grab my book really quick here. This is what I put out, the code journey for 2023. Every year there's a new edition. Right now I'm working on 2024. And in this book, it's like a daily guidebook. It's a spiritual almanac, but it also gives us a heads up of what types of things are happening in our world as well. So it's really about the energetic patterns that are present, and that gives us a heads up of, is it safe to go protest? Is it not safe to do this? When do we need to pay more attention? And what kinds of things can we expect to be seeing come up? And I find that having that foresight is such a powerful tool. It's such a great opportunity to know what we need to be doing in our own life based on those currents. And so it's always fun to do the world events as well. I enjoy doing that because it's always fun to see how much of it aligns and coincides. And actually April is a lot of times has some duplicate energy, not totally duplicate, but some duplicate energy to March. And we know that a lot of military things started opening up in March, a lot of military action going on. And we're seeing that like in France, and we have the huge protest, 1 million people going on right now. And we can expect things like that to continue. In Sweden, we have, other things where they're trying to seize property and the farmers are standing up. Well, this is a month. April is a time that we need to take action. Sometimes we need to sit back, but April is a month that we are going to need to take action if we want to hold on to freedom in our world, if we want to hold on to our rights, if we want to have the ability to have a life that isn't under a dictatorship, that isn't under a regime, isn't repeating aspects of our past, our history, like in Hitler's times, then we need to stand up. And we will have to be careful in this time because April, one of the big things we have to pay attention to is ego and arrogance. And this can go a lot of different directions because sometimes those people who don't have, say, a lot of confidence, they might get that surge of confidence and then they might get a little overconfident in what they can do or should be doing. And so there's always some caution there. And that can create maybe a little danger or risk involved. But those people who want the power and the control, they are oftentimes working from arrogance and ego aspects. And yes, I understand that there's a certain amount of human ego that is healthy, like I said, when it's building a confidence or something like that. But when we're really talking about this arrogance, that these people that have this big ego, this big arrogance about them, that believe that they are invincible. And when I talk about that, I mean, now you're talking about people like Biden, you're talking about the Clintons, you're talking about Obamas, you're talking about the Bill Gates, you're talking about George Soros, you're talking about Klaus Schwab, you're talking about Macron in France, you're talking about Newsom, our California governor, you're talking about Trudeau, these people. This is a month that's going to get interesting because those people living in that arrogance, it's going to bring them a lot of issues. And so they're actually going to probably start tripping themselves up that much more during April. Fauci is another one of those. We see a lot of things that are coming down on him, but that's, that arrogance is coming out. Matter of fact, recently there was just a video put out where he thought he was so arrogant about, look at how we're helping the poor people in certain areas, and they really gave him a piece of their mind, in regards to some things, and they knew a lot. And I think I think we're going to see some reality checks coming into play as a lot of this. And we want to realize that anybody who's operating under this huge arrogance of feeling and believing that they're invincible are people who don't have any real power. They're following some sort of directions or orders from other people. Some of them believe they have a lot of power, but they don't. They may have some money, they may have wealth in the world. If you're talking somebody like Klaus Schwab or George Soros or Bill Gates, or these people who are, pretty much funding and controlling a lot of organizations like WHO and WEF and UN and things like that. But what they don't count on, what they never understand, is people don't like to support that, and they're not going to. So these people aren't going to be able to hold that arrogance back during April. And that's really going to trip them up. That's really going to open some doors up. That's going to lead them to take some very bold, maybe dictatorial style moves in the world. And that's going to backfire on them. It's going to just open up some stuff that's not going to be healthy for them. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Just think about who has the big egos out there. And those are the people we're going to see some issues happening around. The wealthy is going to be trying to outdo themselves. And this has already started to a little bit, extend a little bit because of some of the code influences that are going on in March. But we're going to start seeing this competition going on more and more between the wealthy people, between these people who have done all of this money laundering, between these people who have made these high profits off of their positions in society, and they now want to outdo each other. So they're going to be trying this one-upmanship. They're going to be trying to prove themselves in many ways, and they want to be seen as the most powerful. So that's going to also get interesting, and we're going to start seeing how much they're doing just for the sake of being accepted. See, most of these people don't have any real essence of who they are. They don't know true value or worth. And so everything is placed in the money, everything is placed in that. And everything that they do is for money, power, or acceptance. And so we're going to see these interesting competition type of dynamics coming up between the wealthiest, and that can play out in a lot of different ways. We could see that play out where they compete to see who is who can put certain orders through in their country. We might see that play out of those who try to appear all of a sudden they're more compassionate after they've already taken all of these acts against people. So that's going to be something to pay attention to. From the 1st through the 20th, we are going to see military activity ramp up. And so that first 3 weeks of April, a lot of this is going to come into play in 2 different ways, because we're going to have a lot of people that are going to be standing up for their rights during that time. We're probably going to see more protests during that time. People are tired and they are ready to remove the authoritarian and dictatorial structures, and we need to do it. So, granted, you've always got to be careful out there, always, but it is important to use this time to start to bring these structures down another notch, to continue to break them down. Now, the farmers, for example, have been holding very strong, for example, over in Sweden, but now they're just flat out saying that's it. A third of the farmland is gone, or 2/3 of the farmland. I can't remember whether it's 1/3 or 2/3. It's just going to be seized. So these lands, these properties that have been in their been in their families for generations that's it. They're just being taken from them, literally just taken from them. Again, in France, we see the people standing up there. I imagine that that's going to grow going into April. We're going to see this happening in more places around the world where more people are going to say, no way. And this is, this is like which starts first, right? The chicken or the egg type of thing with the military activity. And again, we're going to have two aspects of the military activity. The military, the people are going to call in military to probably have some people removed or to have things taken care of in some places. In other places, for example, like in Sweden, they will probably use the military to seize lands and to implement these competitions that they're in with each other to take total control over people. A lot of countries have things that are going on. In America, while those things are happening in other countries, in America, they're going to start implementing or trying, let's say trying, because I don't think they're actually going to get away with it, to implement aspects or components of CBCD, am I saying that right? Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC. And so they're going to start to try to put these things through. They're really, really trying hard. And so each country has their way that they're trying to get that acknowledgement. Each country has their way that they're working from arrogance. Like I said, in America, that's what it's going to be. In other countries, it's going to be these other forms. And so we can expect a lot of that activity to come up. What's going to happen is we're probably going to see a lot of progression being made for the so-called spiritual warriors or warriors of God. They're going to be able to make some rapid and sudden progress. And so we're starting to see those in little bits and pieces where they were supposed to, for example, arrest Trump in the United States a few days ago, and that didn't work out because more and more just keeps coming out that made him innocent, that proved his innocence, and there's nothing that they can arrest him on. So there's these different components like that. So these successes that come forward for those who have not done something, who are being unjustly persecuted along the way. We'll see that progress, and then we'll see backlash. And that's another area where we'll see the military being implemented either for the people or against the people. And that backlash is going to come out, and they're going to be trying to fight back because they're going to be pretty pissed that they're not getting what they want. And so it can get nasty, it can get ugly. As part of that backlash, we're probably going to see assassinations going on, or at least attempted assassinations. Now, again, the assassinations that can be literal, that can be verbal, that can be over the internet, that can be trying to defame character, all of these types of things. So these are the things that we want to just stay up on, stay paying attention to, and kind of be in observation with that, because at times it could probably be hard to tell who is causing the backlash and who is the victim of the backlash in some ways. And so most of these assassination attempts will be made on people who are standing up for freedom. So when we think about that, this is probably going to happen in those areas. We saw a couple of these last months. We also had the assassination energy here in March, and we saw a couple of people that died suddenly in accidents. And as we know, those who are famous for creating assassinations, try to make them look like accidents, even though it's kind of impossible to, do certain things. It's impossible to be tied to a tree and shoot yourself. But these are the types of things. So we may see people in the inner circle may turn against some of these power sources, or they may have information against them that they decide they're going to come clean with and be a whistleblower on. And then the next thing we know, they're gone. They've had a so-called accident. So these are the things that we can expect to see come up. We'll see more of that happening. Warriors of light, those people again that are standing up to freedom, they're going to be under attack. We need to, and this is going to be due to making major progress in things. So definitely some victories coming through. Those people who have been waiting for us to get some victories, it's going to be happening. But the mudslinging that's going to go on, some of that could get really nasty. Again, here in the States, they just got through proving election fraud, and finally the courts are starting to work on Kerry Lake's side, for example. So we could very easily maybe see some backlash happening in that area. We could see threats, assassination attempts, perhaps on her direction. So all of these high profile people, but even, some of the background people, right, the supporting role people in things will also be in the spotlight because of that. And we can see, like I said, more people may be coming over to be warriors of the light, which brings that sudden progression, which then brings the backlash and the assassination attempts. So we'll have to see exactly who comes into the spotlight with this, but there will be these components happening. During this time, this first 3 weeks of the month, we want to draw on the past to help us get through without conveniences, and to avoid repeating the cycles. This is our opportunity to break our cycles. So most attempts to destroy freedom, to take away rights, to do these things are not going to be successful, and that's the good thing. So even if there are assassination attempts, they may not be successful. They could be some close calls. There could be, it could leave some people in some pretty bad situations, but they may not be able to go all the way through it. And this is a time, because those backlashes that are going to be happening, that desire to make people pay for standing up for their rights and their freedom, could leave people without some modern conveniences, which means we could see more power outages going on. We could see restrictions attempted to be put on people. That California's done this in the past, that, oh, you can only charge, your electric vehicle for so long, or these sorts of things coming down the pike, just to be inconvenient to people, just to create challenges and issues for them. And so we do want to go back and say, okay, look, when tyrants have taken over in the past, by whatever period you want to go to look at that, when dictators have taken over in the past, how did people deal with the lack of conveniences? How did they deal with that backlash of that power and that control? And that's going to help us to understand maybe some of the things we can implement during this month of April to get by, to make it a little bit better. And this is where it's always coming back to, how much have you set yourself up to hold strong in whatever they pull. We always hope that, no, we don't have to suffer through things, but unfortunately the people that do the backlash, the people that are having their plans foiled on things, they're not going to be nice about it. And so while we can hope that everything is absolutely fine and stays up, we want to be prepared to deal with it in case it doesn't. And I think that's a huge piece to keep in mind. And I've always found that if I'm prepared for something, it doesn't always happen. And if it does happen, it doesn't really matter that much because I'm prepared to deal with it. This goes back to some of the old days where, you know, you have those emergency plans. You have those emergency plans in place, you know, and hopefully you never use them. But if you need them, it's better to have them and to be able to use them. Now, on the 21st through April 21st through the end of the month, we're going to see a lot of drama, a lot of chaos come up. We'll probably see some things that are working with weather manipulation going on during that time. We're going to see a lot of probably storms coming up during that time, which may be worse again, using weather manipulation tools to victimize people, to as a punishment, you know, against people, to remove their conveniences, to remove their comforts, to, again, this is what the corruption does, is it makes people suffer until they just say, I give up and I'll turn my power over. And right now, their whole focus is getting you to do that. And so it's very, very important that we don't. It's very important we stand up for the freedom, that we stand up for our rights, that we stand up for what is the so-called right thing to do in the world, for what is truly important. And we're going to have to get to that point where we're, you know, we're really starting to realize that there are going to be people, they're going to have to recognize that the people that they have been following, the people that they have been supporting are the tyrants. And it's not what they've wanted to see, and it's not what they've been programmed to believe, but they're going to have to take a look at that. And it's going to start to hit in a greater reality. But those that are working from that space of corruption, that space of tyranny, in a sense, they're going to be creating a lot of trauma, a lot of drama, a lot of chaos. And our power is going to be staying still, staying calm, being that eye of the storm. And that means we're not going to go into that, you know, backlash state of things, right? Because they're implementing whatever they're implementing, whatever restrictions or things that they choose to try to implement. We just need to stand calm and let that chaos settle down. Take the time to think about it. Take the time to really look at something first, and to just center in, because that's where our power is going to be. They're looking for reactions. They're looking for signs that let them know where we're feeling weak, where we're feeling vulnerable. So if we just stand in that calm strength, no matter what chaos is getting stirred up, we'll come out okay. We'll come out okay. Now, there is accidents, death energy during this time. So that tells me there could be a ramping up. We could see storms that are deadly during this time. We could see the chaos, the trauma. There could be false flags that go wrong. There could be death that is happening from things that are being implemented to distract people from other things. So we definitely want to be careful. We don't want to take any chances. Storms could come in out of nowhere. And so it's always better to be safe. Have your safety preparedness ready to go. Pay extra attention to what you're doing, what's going on around you. Give yourself a little extra time at a stoplight, because I have a feeling those people who are highly influenced or programmable, or that are what they call sleepers, or just sitting in the backgrounds waiting to be activated, I have a feeling that we could see some stuff come up. We could see that last part of the month is not going to be good to be at protests. So if you're going to do your protesting, do it early in the month during the first 3 weeks. But once you get to the 21st, that last 10 days of the month, in there, 9-10 days, the protest can turn deadly. The protest can have things happen, and there can be accidents that even if somebody's just intending to scare somebody, it could turn deadly. So have some preparations on hand is my opinion. Have those backup plans ready to go, and stay out of the protest that are at the very end of the month, because those are very likely to be infiltrated with your groups like Antifa, with your other undercover groups, if they call them undercover. They're going to go out and they'll look like they're supporting one thing, but they're really the ones creating the turmoil. So definitely we want to be very careful of that. There's going to be a lot of uprisings. There could be some rioting going on during that time. And so it's going to be important to do that. A lot of this energy that's happening during that time, it's equal to what they're trying to implement, and getting everybody stirred up like this. They're hoping that by stirring up all of this chaos, that then they can justify implementing other things that they want. And basically what they're trying to do is to make people equal to cattle that are ruled over, that are held in stalls, that can't go anywhere, that can't do anything, and are just spending their life in a stall waiting to be slaughtered. And that may sound pretty harsh, but that is the direction that they would like to take things. The corrupt people would like to take things. That's the way that they view people in many ways. And they're just cattle. They're just cattle waiting to be slaughtered. And so even though we may not live our life in a stall and then go to a slaughterhouse, it's no different in a sense when they've got the slaughter planned through a riot, through a protest, through these other things. And so it's going to be a tough and interesting balance in there, because we do need to stand up and reclaim freedom. We are going to have to stand up, and that just means that some of these areas, if we do have to stand up, could get violent. We may be standing up to people who are very violent. And yet at the same time, again, if we can come back to the calm ways to do that, the legal channels to do that, the lawful channels to do that, then that is going to be the better path. As much as possible, we want to reclaim this in strength. And strength is not the same as violence. So we want to find the appropriate ways to do it, because we don't want to just lay down and give up to them, but realize that some of these protests and things are staged, and they are going to be they're going to be challenging to be in, and they're going to be looking to go after the people who are standing up for freedom. And they'll have people infiltrated into the crowds that are going to be spotting them, identifying them, pointing them out, and turning them in. Throughout the month, some of the high activity aspects are going to be literal and proverbial wars. So that comes in a lot of different ways. Again, we could have verbal wars going on, information wars going on. We can have physical wars going on. I think it's going to be a combination of all of them, really. I think there's going to be a variety of wars. We're going to see wars between the rich and famous. We're going to see wars between celebrities. We're going to see all kinds of wars going on. And we have to be very careful about the role that we are playing in those roles. And some people are meant to be there on the front lines. They're meant to do that. the key that we, the people, the average person on the street who just wants to live their life, what we want to try to do is we want to do what we can to reconcile our differences with people. And that doesn't mean that we need to change their opinion necessarily. It's always great when people can see the truth on something, but the biggest part is that we come together and say, look, we're going to have these differences of opinion. That's fine, because you're concerned about certain things and I'm concerned about certain things. And, that's only going to make it better when we bring those concerns together. But right now, we all need to stand up to the corruption that's going on. We all need to stand up to the tyranny, the dictatorships. We need to stand up to those who are trying to remove our freedoms, because no matter what side of the fence you're on, you're not going to get anything if these people are allowed to keep going the way that they're going. People need to be united. We need to be a united front against the corruption. And that's the important thing. So this is very, very important. But likewise, we could see, because of the behaviors, the things I've been talking about, we may see people who are learning the truth and therefore may come back to us. Maybe somebody who didn't like us 2 years ago or has been working against us now may come back and say, look, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry I didn't know the information back then. I probably should have researched it, or should have done this, or should have done that. But, we need to reconcile now. So we may actually see less and less of a division between people, even if they're even if they're on opposing sides. And this is going to be a powerful turning point. If we can take advantage of this, if we can do this, if we can come together, we will be able to overcome this corruption that is trying to destroy the lives of humanity on this planet. A lot of the battles that are going to be going on are going to be between leaders, and it's going to be over power and control. So, we see this, some of the things that have happened in recent times. We've seen Putin and Xi join together. So definitely there's going to be some interesting components, I think, coming out with that. Again, this is part of that ego, that arrogance that's coming out, people wanting to prove themselves to get a better standing among the corrupt circles of the elite. And that's going to lead them to really get nasty with each other. And that's why I say sometimes you just step out. Sometimes you step out, you know where to stand for the freedom and you stand up for that. But at the same time, you step out and let them have their battles to a certain extent, because they're trying to go through something, and it's going to expose a lot. And some, those are the battles you don't want to be involved in if you don't have to be in there, because they will expose themselves. And they're going to show, again, in that thriving for the power, for the control, they're going to probably amplify some of their efforts, and we're going to see the backlash on it. And that's going to give the success for the people that are saying, no, you're not taking this away. And then that's going to create a backlash from the corruption. And so that cycle is kind of interesting. But what they're doing is they're bringing themselves down. So we're going to see a lot of collapsing through the inner circles of the corruption going on. And this thrive, this thirst for power, which they all have it, is going to lead them to start taking each other down. So we're going to have a more amplified thing happening with that. And you're going to start seeing them turn against each other, which is going to be interesting. Now, from the 1st through the 3rd, just those first couple of days, we're going to see a massive attempt of gaslighting going on. And the more they try to gaslight, the more deception that's going to be exposed. So this is, again, where we see that great forward progression for the warriors of the light. we see a lot of tests and temptations going on. So again, if you don't have to necessarily be involved, don't. People are testing. We're going to see a lot of testing. Now I could see this coming in with Trump. He may be testing people during this time, and you may not know who is with him or who isn't. But I have a feeling he will be on the spotlight, not because of gaslighting or deception, but because he's testing to see who might be with him and who might not be with him. And so that's going to be interesting, again, testing those waters going on. I think we're going to see a lot of testing of the waters to see of the corruption, to see what they think they can get away with, where the weak points might be. Do we have a vulnerability that we can take advantage of? Tons of mind games that are going to be going on. And these mind games are going to be designed to destroy hope. So again, that gaslighting is all about telling people lies, right? It's blatant lies, and hoping they're going to believe it. And those lies are going to be based around creating doom and gloom scenarios. And through doing that, they're hoping to destroy people's hope. Because again, if they destroy people's hope, then they are, then it's easier for them to take control. And so we don't want to do that. We don't want to give up the hope. We don't want to stop and just give in. So it's very important to actually research things, to actually find out the truth. And I don't mean through fact checkers, and I don't mean through mainstream media. You need to get out there and look at the documents, and you need to find out what's actually going on with things, and watch, what's actually happening. And again, don't let our hope be broken. That's just a couple of days in there. So they have a very small window of time. That's a very hard, period. It's very hard to break people's hopes in only a couple of days. But where people are already worn down, that's the thing. And then of course, the 4th through the 12th, we've got some components again with this lot of trauma and drama and turmoil. And while most of that was supposed to come later in the month, we have that component later in the month as well. So it's kind of like we're going to get a little period that's going to stir up in the middle, and that's probably some of that backlash period in there. If people don't buy the gaslighting, progression for the warriors, then those who are corrupt, who are being brought down, backlash from the 4th through the 12th. And then things ease up again, and we have more progression for the spiritual warriors from the 13th on. And then they kick up turbulence, from the 13th through the 20th, say, and then they kick up turbulence again in the 21st. So again, this kind of ups and down, ebbs and flows going on. And we just have to stay on guard. And the trauma and drama can be created in all kinds of ways, but we need to be able to remain calm in it. And so observation, I think, could be very powerful. Again, stand up where you can, stand up, in the ways that you can, but be safe, be safe. That end of the month, I wouldn't be out in the protest at the very, that last week and a half. But, stand up where you can at the beginning, and hopefully that's enough. And hopefully you won't have to face the other harder parts that come at the end of the month in there. Through that. Now, the 13th through the end of the month, and this is more of a mindset, I guess I should clarify that, that turbulence is, again, more trying to create turbulence in the mind than the outer world. So it's more playing with thoughts and that aspect. The 13th through the end of the month, we're going to see a lot of illusions. So again, these mind games going on, these being hard to tell who's on what side of the fence with things, seeing things as, we have to be very careful during that time, because people want to see things the way that they are, the way that they want them to be, and not the way that they are. And so we need to be willing to break our illusions in the second half of the month. We need to get out of this illusion that, oh, I don't have to do anything because it'll all just work itself out. I'm spiritual, I get that, I understand that concept, and to one extent it happens that way, but to another extent it doesn't. We have to be willing to break through our illusions. We have to be willing to say, look, maybe I supported so-and-so for a while, and now I'm seeing other things and I just can't support that. Come back to the values, come back to the divine principles, come back into that, and come back into the truth. And it's whoever's standing in the truth, period. This isn't about parties or sides or that sort of thing. We have to break through the illusions. If we don't break through the illusions, we will be held captive. We will always be captive to, the gates of the world and dictators of the world and things like that. So we have to be willing to see things as they are and not just as we want them to be. This is very, very important, and this is going to help a lot, and it's going to be challenging for some people because it's going to be very different than what they've been programmed to do that. But it's important to stand in that truth right now, because that is what's going to bring down this network, this corrupt network of people. As far as the more feeling sides of world events, the 1st through the 11th, what we have going on is the general feeling is we need to be able to be in command or control of our life. I think more and more people will tune into that, because they'll tune into realizing that, look, the only place that we can have a life is when we step out of all of this centralized control and power, is when we stop turning our power over to these dictators. We have to come back to remembering they work for the people. We do not work for them. And that's very important. We are going to have more and more people that are going to want to be escaping the matrix, so to say, more and more people wanting to have influence over their own life. And so we're going to continue to see that movement. That's something that's been going on for a little while in the codes. That sort of movement towards freedom, that movement towards what can I do to be a little more self-sufficient in my life. So the positive side of that is that's giving the people the strength. The desire for that is giving people the strength to stand up for the freedom, for what's right. We must not turn over our rights. It's so critical during this point. We cannot afford to do it. Once we do it, once they're gone, there's those people that have the illusion, talk about an illusion that has to be broken. Those people that have the illusion, well, we can just have it back. We can just change it back. No, you can't. Once you give these rights up, once you give up the freedom, once you say, screw the Constitution, which is there to protect you, that's it. You don't get them back. You don't get a do-over. It doesn't work that way in this situation. So we cannot turn them over no matter what. And the good thing is, I think more people feel that in their hearts, or will feel that in their hearts. We need to carve the paths outside the system. We need to carve alternative options and availability on things and figure it out. That means we might have to get a little creative, and that's okay. We might have to draw on people with more knowledge than what we have in something to figure out how to do that. But it is well worth figuring that out than to just say, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It matters a lot. So we must not allow others to persuade us during this time. So you're going to have those ones that are trying to get up there for their power and their influence, and they're going to do anything that they can to persuade people. And so we've got to stay on guard with that. We need to learn to work more and more with what is in hand, and this is going to be a big thing, because especially where they're trying to implement these central bank digital currencies and these sorts of things going to these systems. If you are carrying any debt, you are holding yourself in a slavery system. And I get it, because I've been there. I understand what it means to fight back out of that debt. I understand what it takes. And I had to make a lot of sacrifices to get out of the debt that I was in. And these debt systems are going to do nothing but create stress and more restrictions. And the more debt that you're carrying, the more they are going to be able to restrict you. And that means, you know, I get it. We can't all just go down, pay off the car, pay off everything, but you can change how you're living. And it's okay. There's no shame in being more responsible. Matter of fact, that's where we open the doors up to opportunities. Is the more responsible we become, the more opportunities we can open up. But we can't open up those opportunities while we're living in debt. And even if you just chisel away and make a little bit more than the base payment to start with, or, you know, any of these things, because what's going to happen is if you don't do this and you leave yourself in debt, things like these central bank digital systems, they're going to come in and they're going to say, oh, you haven't paid off your car. Oh, you owe this. Oh, guess what? The banks are not doing well. So we're going to seize everything that you have, and you no longer own your home. You no longer own this. So the more you can move yourself in that direction, it's better to do with a little bit less and to get rid of any piece of debt that you can. Work a little bit extra if you need to do that and clear that debt out. It's much better to do that than to sit in that debt system, because that is nothing more than a slavery system. And once they'll do is, if you're in that system, they'll force you into the central bank systems, because they'll say you have no other option. And then once you're in that system, they have total control. They can shut anything off that they want to shut off. They can shut off your most basic needs if they want to do that, in order to claim what's theirs. And as we see these banking issues going down, I think that's very much going to play into this aspect, that they may really start to come after people who are holding debt, because they figure they can't fight back, right? They figure you can't fight back. And what are you going to do if they seize your car, if they seize your property, if they seize, you know? So again, don't be in fear with that, but look at what options can you do and what can you create to get out of that debt. Now, the 12th through the end of the month, and I think people are going to realize that again here in the heart, and they're going to realize the importance of that. The 12th through the end of the month, it's really a call for us to turn to God, turn to the soul self, and to come in there and call on that divine alignment to help us through the situations that we are facing. During that last part of the month, there's going to be a lot of attempts to break people down, and we cannot give into it. We cannot break down, no matter how worn, how tired, or anything else we are. We need to create the breakthrough. And one of the ways they're going to be trying to break people down is through losses and death due to lies. So again, we're going to see they're not going to be honest with people about something. And that dishonesty, that lack of transparency, is going to probably lead to some deaths and create some issues and create losses for people. And that's going to be hard. And that will break a lot of people down, because it will just be like, I can't take it anymore. We've got to stand strong. And that's, I've gone through a lot of hard things in my life. And I know that the answer has always been to go to my soul self, to always been go in and ask God for help in things. So in doing that, we can get through it. But that divine source energy is what is going to help us to get through it. It's what's going to give us the strength to face what we have to face. And if we don't face it now, it's only going to get worse. It's going to get worse. The circumstances next time around are going to be harder, and we'll have to go through things under much worse conditions. And So it's important that we make that breakthrough, that we stand persistent. There's going to be attacks happening on what is dear to our heart, where we hold attachments. And so we're going to have to transmute this pain. And when I hear about that attack on what is dear to my heart, that, you know, that plays into part of the WEF's agendas of going after animals, because I think animals are one of the biggest things in people's heart. Animals, for a lot of people, it's also family, friends, but I think they're animals. And I think that is going to be the hard thing. But we need to do a big check on what are the things we're attached to? What do we feel really attached to? Of course, you know, there's always those things that you want to keep, but if you need to give them up for some reason, you know, the key is to love something without trying to be attached to it. We can have connections, we can have enjoyment, we can have relationship, all of these great things without having to be attached to something. And the attachments are our vulnerabilities. So wherever we are vulnerable as a collective in our heart, wherever we hold attachments, whatever is most dear to us is what they're going to come after. And so, again, that's freedom in a general sense of things, your ability to protect yourself, your sense of safety. There's all different ways of things there. But again, when we look at this with that breakdown energy, when we look at it with the loss and death energy, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be animals, honestly, because that's one of the hardest things for people to deal with. That's one of the most painful things for people to deal with in there. So that's where we're at for the month of April. I hope you guys stay safe out there. Please, please, please stay safe. If you found this interesting, valuable, you want to stay up to date on this, once a month I put these videos out to just go over the world event things, how they're connecting with the codes. Go ahead, give the channel a like, subscribe, and share the video out. Let other people see it. And then also jump over to the website, compassioncodes.com, pick up your copy of the Code Journey, and get your copy for 2023 so you can always have a heads up when you see things coming up and you want to go do something. You can check out what the influences are and know, hey, is it a good time for me to participate or not participate? Is it, you know, what's the position I need to take? And you can stay up as well on not being deceived by so much, and you can be able to hold into the truth as well. Take care, everybody, and I will see you in a month.